We're live. Welcome, everyone. Hop on in. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Thanks for joining me, Chris and Gary.
All right, glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Chris, thanks for taking time on your busy day, too.
This will be funny. This will be fun. I mean, fun, Craig, not funny.
Oh,
It
it'll be
could be
funny.
funny.
It'll be funny.
Yeah,
Just
the
like
the green room banter, and y'all didn't hear, but yeah, me and Gary were figuring if we were twins or not, or how we could be twins. Is Gary my alter ego, or am I Gary's alter ego? Put some glasses on me and shave me.
I'm the oldest twin. Okay, so I came out first. If we're gonna play that role, right? Was it DeVito and
Arnold
Schwarzenegger?
Schwarzenegger.
The
Yeah.
twins. The twins.
Which,
yeah.
by the way, Craig says that Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, which I have not read yet, is a good read. And
It's a better listen. It's a better listen because Arnold is the narrator as well.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
you
gosh.
gotta do it that way with his words. And he actually, as far as having written the book, I don't know if he used a ghost author or not, but the way he speaks it, it's like him talking. His natural tone. I don't hear a lot of authors of their own books that do the reading successful in achieving that actual enthusiasm. Like you can see his passion in the topic. It's a cool topic. I will be using that as an example in some upcoming conversations.
His Geico commercial where he starts saying, "Get to the chopper, get to the chopper," and they're making fun of his. That's funny, right?
Yeah.
That's actually a creative, and appreciate him for doing that.
He was the right
He
move.
got boatloads of money.
Yeah, and then the commercial. You were talking about that where he can't say State Farm.
Yeah,
he keeps messing it all up, and they cut the tape. And they say, "Stay it." And he can't. I'm saying it. And it does so good. And they just gave up and they said, "Okay, say it however you want to."
Beautiful. Hey, folks, it's 1 o'clock, so we are going to jump right in here. Thank you so much for joining us. As you continue to roll in, take a look down at the Zoom menu. You'll see the chat bar. You can talk to our panelists. You can talk to each other. You can private message each other, gossip and slander, anything you want to do in there. But what we really want is for you to make comments and ask questions for our panelists. That is all we want to see. We love the engagement from our audience. You folks are amazing. We thank you so much for your poll responses as we accepted the registrations for this event. I think we have a conversation that's both relevant and timely for our industry, any of our shops, truly. So please welcome our guest here. We have Gary Gunn from Auto Shop Showcase, and of course, Chris Cloutier, our CEO and president of Autoflow and multi-shop owner, Golden Rule Auto Care. Gary, I want to start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience today.
Woo! I've been around a long time, Craig, so I have a long list of things that I could say, but I bleed automotive repair. And I got into this business 40 years ago and fell in love with the guys and gals that run these shops. And that was the most beautiful thing that I felt, and I felt at home. So I said, I don't know what I'm going to do in this industry, but I'm here to stay. And once I made that decision, man, it became a whole lot easier to become part of it. And that's what I've done my whole career.
Nice.
Part of this automotive industry.
Born and raised, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, born and raised in the auto industry is not your story.
But I can attest to Gary. I've known Gary. We met a long time ago at a conference at Vision is the first time I met Gary. So he does bleed automotive, that's for sure. Craig, no, my story's a little different. I came from outside the automotive industry, one of those computer guys that that decided that, hey, I'll get in the industry and it'll be easy. And it's been nothing but difficult. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to leading auto repair shops, as well as any business. So I think this topic is a wonderful topic. I don't think that this industry can talk about leadership enough. As a matter of fact, I was just talking about to another person in Autoflow the other day about the biggest joke that's ever told, or you ever think as a child, as you think that adults have their stuff together and like they have their finances together, and like if they're put in a leadership position that they're in the right place. And then when you become an adult, you're like, holy crap, we're all just a bunch of children. We're still children. Our bodies have just grown older.
Yeah.
So I think
go for it.
leadership is one of these topics that, yeah, I love delving into it and love being a part of this conversation.
That's why you're here. Thanks so much for joining us. I knew this would be a good panel. I'm Craig O'Neill. I'm your host today, as always, at these Autoflow webinars. And as always, we want to take a look at these poll results. I have a lot of fun filtering through the responses of our audience. And this is something that I think you enjoy too, because you keep coming back and giving us good answers. But here's the results for the question of what describes the time the owner is actually present at your shop. And this was posed to anyone who is registering, not just the owners, but also staff members as well. So sometimes this is an assessment of an owner. Sometimes this is the owner himself assessing his time. But I thought it was interesting. Most of the shop owner responses were either always or most days. Well over half were there most of the time. And that was my experience. If I can tell you one thing about the family business, it was that mom had one critique of dad, and that was that he never took time off. So yeah, definitely can create some tough scenarios. A few days, once a week, rarely. I would ask, Gary, is this in alignment with what you see in the shops that you mentor?
Wow, it all depends on one thing: what age dad is, and is he willing to give it up?
Mm.
Okay, and I found that those are the most interesting stories, where the siblings are coming up through the business, and good old dad just won't move over.
Yeah. I know what that felt like. And I have the inverse of the same story as we went through cycles of yay, we're doing great, and yay, we're not. Nice. And Chris, you have a unique circumstance with your two shops. What
I'm
meeting
the
would you
one
be in?
I'm the once a week, Craig.
Yeah.
And that's once a week on a good week. Sometimes I get busy. I owning multiple companies, the software company takes a lot of my time. The shops are very well run. We have some good managers in place. We're going to get into that, right? How to manage a shop remotely without having still having your presence there, but not having your presence there. And I think that's what we all want. And a lot of us just, laying down the framework and structure for being able to be away. It's a good thing. And Craig, I'm going to tell you this. This is probably the hardest thing that I think a lot of shop owners are going to go through, or owners in general, is the sense of they don't need me. When I'm not at the shop and things run well, and I'm sure your dad kind of went through this, we all have this, it's, well, hold on, what am I there for then? What do I do if people don't need me and there's not a fire for me to put out and all this other stuff? Like, defining yourself or redefining yourself becomes a little bit different when
Yeah, it's interesting.
you're not around, right? So that unfortunately, I think sometimes it's just our pride gets in the way. We're like, nope, got to be here because they can't do it without me.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see some of the responses from those owners on why they don't get away in a second. Before we do that, let's take a look at the next thing of the employees, the non-owners who responded. How would you feel if the owner stepped away more? And this was a short answer response. So I just took the most common ones here to show you right now. Most of them were overwhelmingly like, yeah, get out of here. We'd be great. And I thought this was pretty cool to see. There were a few that had some other choice words on there as well. There was a couple that were negative. One critique that the owner was a lazy SOB. That one was interesting. So we can talk about that later too. That's all right. But here's where it got really interesting is as I boiled into some of the more detailed responses, we saw these sort of answers, both positive and negative responses to that question. If you were way more, I hope that means he has more confidence in our team. That's a positive assessment by this individual that thought that, yeah, that means he trusts me. That's great, right? Fits in right with that great category. And another one had a goal of being able to step away more himself and would like to become more free, setting up management systems to make that work. That seemed to mean good things for him versus the negative, right? And I say this as a negative, but it is also a positive, but we don't want the owner to go away, meaning I don't want him to leave. Owner is here and he's a positive influence on our store operations. Not surprising at all. I know a lot of you as owners and that are very involved in business, and that's good. That's a very positive thing, but they don't necessarily want you to leave, and that's going to keep you there. And maybe you want to be there. That's all right too. But here's the thing, this green response, stepping away from the facility would feel more like the business and all the people involved would suffer at least a little bit if the owner isn't there. Now, the reason I highlighted one yellow and one green is those two responses very specifically were from two people that work at the same store. Two people that work at the same store, the yellow and the green. So one very much, yeah, owner, take a little time off. The other like, we might suffer a little bit if he's gone. What do you think
Craig,
of that?
let me dive into this. First, the guy who said the owner's a lazy SOB, I'm pretty sure he was the owner. And he said that. So I appreciated that humor, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like I'm sitting in the back with my feet on the desk.
I'll
It
go
made me
back
laugh.
and look at the spreadsheet and see if it was
I'm
an
pretty
owner.
sure it was.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was the owner who said it. So
Yeah.
So Craig, and there's truth in these two statements, right? Once an owner does step away, there is that presence, keeping that presence there without the owner not being there, right? It certainly diminishes, right? Because there's a presence. Now we're like, yeah, Chris just said it. You can't go to multiple shops and you're going to lower your quality. But then you look at places, we bring this up all the time, Chick-fil-A. How have they found a way to replicate a great experience at a fast food level, still say please and thank you, how may we serve you, still deliver a good product, right? So this is where we'll get deeper into, once again, the systems that we get in place and the core values of a shop. Do you have core values? Are there principles that you live by in your operations? All of these things that I think a lot of time owners gloss over that become very important, especially if you become absentee.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Chick-fil-A too. My daughter just started working there and has gone through their onboarding process. So it's actually been really interesting to see what I hear a lot about that organization doing well. I can see. It's interesting. Gary, what about you? Takeaways on this point?
I think the number one, and we learned it a long time ago, it's just like when you retire. Now what do I do? Now I've got my business auto shop to run on its own and I'm not necessary. You better have a game plan B or C or D, because you need something to do, because you've been going there and going there and going there for years. And that's where I see most owners call me and they say, Gary, I got the business running without me. Now what do I do? And I said, well, that's a good question. What do you like to do? What do you want to do? And then we go down that path.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Better have a plan, because you're going to feel lonesome.
Well, I felt like this particular issue here too was driving at the different feelings different employees have in the same organization even. And
yeah.
For me, like, how would you begin to address concerns becomes a question I would ask here. Because if an employee is concerned about the owner leaving, I'm certain that even if he had a place he wanted to go short term, that's going to keep him from maybe even scheduling a well-earned simple vacation, much less anything else. You must have run into this before, where inside the facilities that you're working with multiple feelings on this.
What's the number one thing? If you do $100,000 a month, the employees think you're making what?
100,000 a month.
Yeah, you got all that money, and so this could stem from just different personalities, different temperaments working in the same environment. I don't know whether y'all had brothers and sisters, but we didn't all turn out the same. We came through the same training process. We came through the same parents, but we're all three so different.
Yeah, no, very much
so.
So
The difference in temperament and personality could cause these different situations.
Interesting. Let's take a look at the reasons that owners cited that they aren't leaving more often. And this one was overwhelmingly on the guilt element. And the word guilt was used in so many of the responses, 33% of them here. And there was one that even said Catholic guilt. So he threw the religion side into it too, as a joke, clearly. And this is yeah, I think actually the most common one that I've seen as well. Feeling guilty to get away from the team. And there was reasons for it cited in some of them. Some of them like, we're low staff right now, so if I weren't there, extra pressure on the team. And that's obviously the right reasons to be involved and still stay there. These aren't just excuses or anything else. Growth demands. staffing, delegation in general, sometimes just not having the delegation systems. That's where we started to see some admission that there's some procedural elements that we haven't really defined. And I think that that's where this topic is really going to serve a lot of these people. Now, the guilt and responsibility side of things, I think that this should hopefully also be a conversation to remove some of that. The business growth and demands, I think that over time, your business growth should also be able to depend on other leaders in your industry, in your shop. These are all solvable. Gary, does this line up with what you've seen in the shops you're mentoring?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is they always feel like if they're not there, they're not pulling the weight, and they feel guilty if they're not there.
Yep.
You hear that more than anything else.
Yep.
And I have to be there to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, I'm going to go back to the statement I made earlier, right? And it's once you truly start working on your business versus in your business, it's a mindset shift, and it's a hard mindset shift because you're so used to, once again, the day-to-day operations, right? It defines you. We're defined by the actions and the things we do during the day, even though we should be defined by who we are but a lot of times it's the things we do. So at the end of the day, we feel really good when we've lifted, pushed, pulled, and we're dirty and we're greasy and we've done, versus it's a different mindset to sit in an office and think, okay, well, let me evaluate, let me draw up some procedures and processes. Let's tweak this. Let's create some KPIs. I know this person needs to do some management training. Let me myself do some more training and leadership. It's different, right? Let me think of things strategically versus tactically. I'm constantly in the mix of things. And so I could see that guilt coming from, once again, as soon as I try and pull away, and Gary makes a great point. Like, if you don't know what you're going to pull away to, then your absence of what ran your day becomes a huge gaping hole in your life. And that's, none of us want to be there.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of people retire, and what do they go do? After about 3 months, they get bored and they go find another job, or they go to work at Chick-fil-A, or they go do something, or they go back in the marketplace.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the things I saw missing in some of the responses, but it sort of, you had to read between the lines. The staffing, delegation, ops challenges, and control and perfectionism dealt more with the topic of trust and trusting the team, or knowing that the team, sometimes it isn't a trust issue. Like, maybe you believe they have the ability, but if you're not there, they would be overwhelmed just purely because of the staffing issues. That's very common. But not all cases of it was that the thing. Like, there was lots of people in the guilt category that were openly admitting that they could, but don't. And that's where we're going to go into now. Gary,
I'd like to share something here,
please.
Craig. It just ran through my mind here. And I always like the 80% rule. Okay. So this is how it works. And perfectionism, running an auto repair shop, is the death to profit. Just remember that and write that down, folks. Perfection, running an auto repair shop, is the death to profit. So what do I mean there? If you can live with your shop, have a B- operation, and you're not there, then you can live in that absentee world, or live in that other world that you want to participate in. And if you can't handle that, even if you're there, do you think it's going to run 100% perfection? Not going to be any different. You're not the perfectionist you think you are. Okay, so 80% rule. I'm a living proof that you can get out of high school with a B- average. I'm a living proof. I was in the bottom quartile of my graduating class, and here I am. So 80% rules, better remember that, because that's the key.
Nice. Yeah,
Awesome. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about, Gary, you said this, and it's absolutely true, right? People think, I'm going to solve the problem, and a lot of times they are the problem, right? I mean, it goes back to when you're a child and you look at adults as like these people who've got it together. Well, once you become an adult, you should be able to look in the mirror and say, yeah, I don't have my stuff together. And I'll challenge anybody to say that they do have their stuff together, because nobody has the perfect diet. Nobody has the perfect, routine when it comes to sleep. We all have vices. We all have things that we wish we didn't have. but, and so once again, a lot of times when we get into that shop, right, we become, yeah, I totally, to Gary's point, we sometimes become the problem, right?
Hmm.
And our shop might do better, that B minus, we might think it's an A plus shop, but it's running at B minus. We got out of it. We might even be a B plus shop after you get out of there.
Yeah. I'll never forget the week that my mom and dad did go on a vacation years and years ago. My brother and I were still in our early 20s. And we hit a record sales week the week he was gone. And man, were we proud of that. And the fear, I know my dad's management style he's actually really good at this too. He had this uncanny ability to identify when somebody was messing something up on something, walking by and, did you check this? Like, oh, no. Oh yeah, problem. And so when you have those moments like that, you feel like, gosh, I gotta be here, don't you? And that's a little related to that anyways. But yeah, this is here's another thing. When we start talking about, we've used the language too of getting away more, very specifically in this conversation, and we're tying this to shop leadership. And I don't want to make a false connection to this, but I do want it to come to light here. We talked, because when you started talking to me first, Gary, and we had some conversations around this, you talked about liberty versus freedom, very specifically two different things on that.
Yes.
And what do you mean by that?
Okay. Freedom in an auto repair industry is that the shop owner has freedom to be away from the business, and it operates in that 80% rule. Okay, that's the freedom. Now, if the shop owner has liberty, it's operating in the same realm, but he's coming there or she's coming there and she gets involved or he gets involved in some of the day-to-day operations. That's the liberty side. So when you get there, you can kind of do what you want. You may go out and help a technician work on a car. You may help a couple of service advisors write estimates. You may take a customer home. So you have the liberty to be at the business and it operates without you, but you just want to be there. So to me, I asked the shop owner, I said, do you want freedom or do you want liberty? Now, if you want that old word, that bad word, absentee owner, also that's a different word. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that is the difference between freedom and liberty.
Yeah. So, and you never ever suggest absolute monarchy or despotism.
No.
Okay, just checking, because the control and perfectionist group that mentioned that stuff, that maybe is an area we should just start focusing on liberation.
Yeah, I mean, it's and you can bounce back and forth, freedom to liberty, liberty to freedom. But to me, what do you want? How do you want your shop to operate as the business as part of your life, not your whole life?
Yeah, well, let's talk. You brought up the term, so let's go there right now. Let's talk absentee ownership. What's the first thing that comes to mind when we start talking about an absentee owner?
Owner life.
I'm at the beach. I'm playing golf. I'm
I wore this
in my boat. I'm at the motorhome. I'm in my motorhome, and don't bother me, right? I'm absentee.
Yeah. But does it really mean hands off if someone's an absentee owner?
No.
Especially today. Now, Chris, you're obviously there 1 day a week, but you're not.
So I would also say, you know what? If you are spending 4 days on the beach, good for you. And you're an absentee owner. I know owners that travel a lot. I know owners that are very free, like Gary says, that have that liberty to make choices and do what they want to do, go to their kids' games, go travel for to Europe for whatever they want to do, right? So I think in this term, right, absent the presence of, right? Do you have to be there every day? And you can be, you said, should it be a monarchy? Well, there's still monarchies, I believe, in existence to this day that would claim that they're successful, right? It's how you want to structure your organization and what you want to do. Me, I'm an entrepreneur, Craig. You know this. Like people are like, software company, auto repair shops. Yeah, we don't talk about the real estate company. We don't talk about the other companies that I'm involved in, because then people are like, really, Chris? Like, but that was, to me, that was my freedom, because, as a kid, they're like, Chris, you can't concentrate on things. And I'm like, yeah, but I like lots of things. And now like my superpower is that I can, run multiple things, right? And so I like it. So in order for me to do multiple things, I have to be absent. And once again, my presence, I can't be there every day, but I do want to make sure that the business is run properly, right? If you come into Golden Rule Auto Care, one of the two shops, right? I want to make sure that a consistent visit. I want to make sure that the clients receive a consistent journey from the time that they schedule appointment till the time that they pick up their vehicle, right? And that's once again processes and procedures. I don't have to be there. And this goes to managing my numbers, and we're going to get into this, right? If there's different KPIs and different things that you look over and you expect from the people who you do put in place, right? Elevate, what do they say? Delegate and elevate, right? Make sure that you delegate to the right people, and then you elevate or elevate those right people, and that's giving them power and all the other things. Like we all know this, we talk about this all the time, right? It's just now we got to get in the details, and the shop owners, a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, let's just start with a couple KPIs. Let's start with a couple different things that you measure and you talk to weekly with your managers or whatever. And then a shop owner will go, well, I'm like, no, I could tell you the definitive things every week that we go over. I have spreadsheets, me, I have spreadsheets. Like, let's go over these every week. Like it's consistent. I want to breed that consistency so they know what I expect, and then they can deliver what it is I expect. And if they deliver more, I slap hands and we high five. And so I wanted to say this too, and I like this. I know I'm kind of rambling here, because this is for Scott, one of the guys who works with us, who's a big Jocko Willnick fan, and he said, there's freedom through discipline, right? I tell my guys this all the time, right? You do your job. I'm not going to yell at you, right? It's when you don't do your job, that's when the problems happen. So it's your choice to be disciplined in what it is that we've designated you to do. If you do that, then you're going to have a happy life working for me, because I'm not going to micromanage you, right? I'm going to let you do what you got to do. And it goes,
Let me ask this, Chris. You go to the shop once a week. Now, is
Yes.
the point of being there more about accountability, control, or just as an element of like, this is more routine? It's just what you do.
It's routine and presence. And when you are, here's some things that I've noticed over the time. And I used to come in 2 weeks or 2 days a week. I used to come in 1 day per each shop. And what I noticed, I could put half a day in the morning at one and half a day at the other. And it gave me time to go shake hands with everybody, go meet everybody, make myself there for them, and kind of start, I don't hear exactly all the grumblings of what's going on, but it's my ability to lay my head down on the ground and hear if the buffaloes are running away or they're running towards me, right? So it gives me enough time to where I can get a grip. Most of the paperwork I do, look, the meetings I have with my managers are 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they go 30 minutes. So a lot of times I'm just sitting back here doing work anyways. It's just the ability to have that, okay, Chris is here. He does, go talk to everybody. I try to make it a point to go shake hands with everybody, ask them how their wives are doing, how their kids are doing. Because I do believe that face-to-face creates a personal relationship between my employees,
It's
and that does matter.
Yeah,
And it does create relationship.
largely your 1 day a week routine is a major relational component. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
And look, I'm going to tell you this too. When there is a problem with the managers or with something going on, it's a lot more impactful, in my opinion, to be there face to face with somebody when you're confronting them versus on the phone or on Zoom. I think it's made things very easy as well. If you got cameras on, I think it's still pretty good to be able to relate to people. It's not as good as being face to face, but I still think but phone is hard, email's hard. So when you are correcting, I like correcting face to face when possible. Of course, our whole software company is remote. So therefore, when we correct or when there has to be a conversation, it's via Zoom. But I think that's effective as well.
I feel like you're right here on my screen a lot. Yeah, no, no. So Larry had a good comment here in chat. He says, oh, I get the, oh, hey, I've been meaning to tell you, the rack is leaking, the air compressor's running all the time, 2 employees aren't getting along, we have a few rodents the past few days, et cetera, et cetera. The list of things, those must come out all the time.
That's exactly right. It absolutely. When you show up, sometimes you're opening up the floodgates.
Yeah.
I do ask for weekly reports from both the shops and the managers as well to try and I try and manage, engage anything. If there's a problem, okay, Chris, we just need to make you aware. So, sometimes, but sometimes there's floodgates that open when I come in, for sure.
Yeah. Typical in your experiences too, Gary, having those scenarios, especially like what Larry described, the owners ever feel like that's going to keep them from going away more? Or is this something that restricts?
Well, I'll give you a personal experience of that. When I was running my company in Houston, Texas, I told my people, I said, I'm going to go away for 2 weeks. If you call me, I'll fire you when I get back. Okay. So if the building burns down and everybody quits while I'm gone, that's okay. I'll deal with it when I get back. I need to get myself away from here for 2 weeks, and I don't want a phone call. So a couple of days into the vacation, I called the office. And the girl on the phone says, you told us not to bother you, so don't bother us. And she hung it up. That to me, that's that. And another one I'm thinking about, Brian Kelly, this gentleman I know, he moved 4.5 hours away from his shop. He's been running his shop 4.5 hours away for the last 6 years. He's never been to the shop since. And I interviewed him and I got how he does all this stuff. And it was just powerful. It was powerful. So, it can be done. Then one more story I'll tell you. Yeah. Chris got me all messed up in the head now. He's telling these stories and I just want to tell some stories. So here's the situation. And this one gentleman that I was working with, he was going to open his 9th or 10th store. I don't remember which store it was. And I challenged him, never go in that store. Never go to the job site. Never do anything. Let your people handle it from day one to the end.
Wow.
And I challenged him. And I said, I do not want you to go to that store ever. He never did. He never went to store 10, 11, 12. His people opened it, took care of it, hired, recruited, and ran it. So awesome. The challenge, he said, I can't do that. And I said, well, if you think you've got your processes and systems in place, let's check it out. Let's make it happen.
I mean, think about it. Larger brands that have hundreds and hundreds of stores, you couldn't if you wanted to.
No,
you can't. And it's limiting, right? And we limit ourselves. We do. Gerald, I like something Gerald said, about giving back. And one way I think is good in coaches in the industry, but just shop owners and people have asked me well, I'm not going to start a software company, Chris. So, how do I get away? But giving to others, if there's a charity, it's just, you don't have to go play golf. I mean, there's nobility in saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to spend a couple hours at this, food shelter or whatever. And so that guilt of, okay, I'm not at work, but your guys aren't going to be like, Gary, wow, he's at the food shelter again, helping, homeless people. Wow, what a sucky leader. There's ways to get away. And that's a good way to go find something you're passionate about, you care about, and go help that organization. And it forces you, out in a noble fashion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why is that okay to go away for that? But other reasons to go away too also would come into the equation. If that's something that helps you make that leap, that's probably a good thing.
Correct. That's exactly right. It's a step to help you make the leap. Because then when you're away and you're okay, hey, I'm helping at a food bank. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go take my wife out to lunch for a couple hours. Yeah. Okay. Nothing happened. Like Gary said, hey, the building didn't burn down.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know until I get home. Okay. And that's just the way it was. There's a message back in here. I don't know who sent it in, but they'd missed the 80% rule. So this is sort of the golden rule, Chris, if you play on your shop name there. The 80% rule is that if you want to be free of your business, you want to be, you have liberty from your business, you better be able to be okay with it operating at 80%. 80% of what is supposed to happen, 80% of the efficiency, the productivity, whatever it is that you sitting there, and you got to give your people freedom to operate within the systems. They don't tie their hands of so restrictive. And we talked about perfection following a process is the death of profit. So discretion is always in there, isn't it? You want a bunch of people to be thinking on their feet and wait a minute, this is how we do this, but this one's not that way. I've got to go this way. Mm-hmm. They're making that decision at the front counter. That is what you can do is be free, but let your people operate at 80%.
Yeah. I'll say this is exactly like home. When my wife and I go on our anniversary up north here a little bit, that's we have to have our kids take care, and we're gonna be thrilled if 80% of our pets are still here when we get back.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but this is good. So let's move into another area, because Gary, I thought this was really interesting when you talked about 6 mission critical systems that go into play for shop leadership. And this is all aimed at liberty and freedom, correct? Enabling an owner to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's describe these systems, and let's take these one at a time. The top one that you start with, I assume this was in order when you laid these out for me, and this is where I put it.
It depends on what side of the bed I wake up in the morning.
Okay.
You know, or what shop owner I'm talking to, which one when we talk, we get all the details and say, okay, which one is really needs to be done first.
You got to triage.
You can't go and do all 6 of them at one time, right? You just can't do it. And so the staff training session is and I always like to say this, these are real easy to do, but they're easier not to do.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So when you hear these, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do. I've never done this. I can't do this. I can't. So get the I can't.
We've got 5 days of the week, Gary.
Yeah. So staff training session. That's a total of 20 minutes. And you bring your entire staff together, and you take a process like intaking the vehicle, or you take a process of how do we repair and service vehicles here, or a process of how do we communicate back to the customer. Now, inside of processes is SOPs. There could be 20 SOPs on the intake process. Now, the staff training session, we always say you want 10 key systems that you want to execute as best you can every single day with every single customer. Take those, let's say you set your training session up on Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the morning. So you go over that SOP, you train it, and then your focus for the next 6 or 7 days is that SOP. So you're focused. Then next week you take the second one, and you run through the rotation over 10 weeks. Turn around and do it again. Turn around, do it again, and just keep going through those. Now, the great thing about this, Craig and Chris, is that the owner only has to do the first rotation. Then I say, hey, Craig, will you do the next 10 weeks? Oh, sure, I'll do that. Technicians do it. General service people do it. Sometimes we find the best trainers are the guys getting paid $15 an hour to clean the shop. They could train better than anybody. So what you're doing is it is going to operate without you. The training is going on without you. Well, and if you create these beautiful systems and you put them on the shelf, gathering dust, and you don't continually train them, you wasted your time.
There is so much
gold in that. Don't do it.
Staff training session led by your staff too. This is awesome. And just to clarify, Gary, don't do all 10 processes in one session in 20 minutes.
No,
got it. Right?
Just one. Just one. And when that 20 minutes is up, it's over. Okay? Because we're going to rotate back to this. Every time you train, let's say, intaking the customer, what information do I need to gather? What questions do I need to ask? Every time you train it, it clarifies it in everybody's mind. And it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. If you're not going to train, don't write the process, don't write the system, and don't write the SOP, because you are wasting your time. No one will follow it.
Gosh, this is good. And so, Chris, I don't know.
To me, the STS is the key. One shop owner said, I can't do STS. It's not great. Let somebody else in your shop do them.
There it is.
Let a technician, let somebody do them.
My Toastmasters love is kicking in here, because I was thinking like, oh, wow. So if we had one of our staff that also did Toastmasters and wanted a chance to present something, here we have an opportunity we're creating in the shop to help him with his presentation skills, practice. Now we're talking all kinds of things.
And guess what? Now I have freedom as the owner. I'm not even going to these training sessions anymore. I'm done. So occasionally I'll sneak in the back room and I'll sit down. But it's not about me. It's about them operating within the SOPs or the staff, or it's SOPs to me are really a goal. This is a goal that we want to do, and we want to execute this. And the staff training sessions just will create miracles. If you don't do anything else, do that.
That's really great. That's a wonderful starting point. If there's one takeaway from this conversation, I hope that one gets implemented.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant.
Now, the next one is mentoring. There's a difference between mentoring and coaching. We're mentoring our staff members. So if you have a shop with 3 technicians, 2 service advisors, a gal in the office, or somebody doing something, you want to meet with them 15 to 20 minutes each individually every single week. Now, I live by the 80% rule. So over 52 weeks, if we get 40 of them, we win. Okay. And if we do 40 training sessions, we win. So don't think you're going to get 52 out of 52. It is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I love 80% rules. You'll hear me talk about it all the time. And the mentoring is all about, let's say we're mentoring the technician. How does he and how do you help him get better at what he does? Even if that is he leaves your company and goes someplace else. You know, maybe all of a sudden he wants to do something else and you don't have the opportunity. So what you're doing is you're mentoring that individual to be more than they are today. You're building them up, building them up, building them up. That's the mentoring session. Those, to me, I was working with one of my guys in the office, mentoring him, and he says, you know what? I think I want to leave. Great. Okay. You can't leave till you get your replacement. So I'm going to start interviewing, and I want you to interview them also. And as soon as I can find somebody, you can leave. He said, okay. And that's what we did. But if it's not a fit for that person, and that's what a mentoring session does, it brings those things out that you don't get blindsided by things happening that you're unaware of.
Mm-hmm.
Some mentoring sessions really sounds crazy, Craig, but if they want to talk about their dog and how the dog doesn't do what he's supposed to, he eats the furniture. I've had mentoring sessions that were all about a dog. I've had mentoring sessions that were all about their wives or their kids. So I love what Chris is doing. So he's reconnecting with these people every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. The mentoring session is that reconnection, isn't it? I'm here to help you get better, but it's your accountability to get better. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Larry,
so mentoring is different.
Back that onion. Nice.
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. My wife was working for me and I was doing a mentoring session for her and she says, I want to quit.
Wait, back up, Gary. You were mentoring your wife?
Yeah, I was mentoring my wife to get better at what she was doing. And she says, I want to quit this job. And I said, good. I'll find somebody that wants to do it. But what she was doing was thinking she had to do it, Craig.
A sense of obligation.
Not that it was in her wheelhouse. She thought she had to. And I said, no, if you don't want to do this, we'll find somebody.
Yeah, so the structure even supports like creating space for real conversations that have to happen in a family scenario.
Absolutely. Real conversations.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And to me, that's another 20 minutes. Now, wait a minute. We took up training for 20 minutes. We took up mentoring for 20 minutes. And now we got behavior sessions, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the one you love, because this is coaching behavior. Okay.
Very much so.
My rule in the behavior session is this. If I haven't given Chris 10 positives, hey, I love the way you handled that customer. I love the way you diagnosed that vehicle. You were dead on it. I love the way you communicated to the service advisor. Y'all met in the shop, came up with a way to talk to the customer, and y'all worked together. You got to find 10 good before you can approach on something that needs to change. Okay. And we call this behavior. You can't coach attitude. You can only coach behavior. You can't see attitudes. So if Chris is always coming in late, right? And I haven't built up my emotional bank account with attaboys, thank you, and all those things, I better leave that one in the tank, because I've got to build it up before I bring in the negative. Now I'm going to take an emotional withdrawal out of the bank account, right? But I have to put some emotional bank account in there. Because if all I ever talk to Chris about is the things he's not doing right, he's leaving. It's just a matter of time. You know how many things each one of our technicians does right every day, and our service advisors do right every day?
Good point.
The bookkeeper in the office does right every day. How many things do they do right? And in Houston, when I had a hallway in my office, and it was the Hall of Fame and the Hall of Shame. Okay. So on our Friday meetings, every meeting, they would want to know why their picture was over on the Hall of Shame side versus the Hall of Fame side. And I said, well, great, we have that to talk about. So that was one way of just bringing that out, because it's so important. Emotional deposits, positive, 10 before you take a negative. You know, it's always, listen to this, you know, it's what you don't confront, you validate. So if I allow Chris to come in late 10 minutes every day, what are the other technicians going to do? They're probably going to do the same thing, right?
Yeah, they're going to get a little grumpy. No, that's
a little grumpy. Well, you let Chris get away with it, why can't we? That type of thing. So you have to confront it, but you better have positives in there first.
Yeah. Chris and I talk about this a lot. And Chris, we were talking about the competence and warmth thing, and that always comes into this play too. It's very easy for us to sometimes just start focusing on behavior that isn't going well and trying to correct that just pragmatically. Right. It's tough.
It is. So behavior, I even have to have behavior sessions with myself. Okay. So I turned around to the other desk over here and I say, you know, you got some bad behavior, man. You got to clean this up. You know, and I have a conversation with myself, and it's always funny. The shop owners always say, did you have one today? Did you have one with yourself today? And I said, yeah, I had one. I had one this morning. So it's, and then the next one is the staff potential. Now, behavior session max is 30 seconds, maybe a minute or a minute and a half. You see something positive that's going on, what do? Thank you for doing that. That was fantastic. I saw that. And then if it's one that needs to be corrected behavior, that's max 2 minutes. It's not a discussion. It's just talked about and moved on, right? It's the old cause, concern, cause, correction.
Yeah, very familiar concept.
Just like we're doing with our vehicles, right? There's got to be a concern from the customer. There's got to be a cause. There's got to be a fix. We got to fix it. So the fourth one is the staff potential session. And the potential session is like a pep rally. You gather all your people together for 20 minutes. It might be at lunchtime on Thursday. It might be at opening time on Wednesday. It's the same every single week. And what you're doing in the potential session, you're not talking about your sales. You're not talking about your profit. You're not talking about GP. You're not talking about your KPIs. What you're doing is you're sharing a story of how a customer came through to the business for the very first time. We did this and this and this and this. We handled her just like it should have been. Yeah. You tell stories about
recent win, right?
The recent wins.
Yeah.
Tell stories about that. You know, give you an example of that. You know, if a shop does a lot of oil changes and they say, that guy's been coming here for 6 years and never bought a bling blanket thing. And why do we keep doing oil changes for that guy? And all of a sudden he spends $1,800. Okay. So you tell that story. Hey guys, we did the oil changes here and here and here. And finally he trusted us enough to open his pocketbook or his billfold and pay us.
Yeah. I remember one day we were at a trade show. I was with Chris when this happened. We were showing some bay camera stuff that we were working on, and it was live in his shop at the time. And one of the cameras like, oh, I'll show someone. I was going to show him a car in the bay, but there's all of his guys sitting in the bay in chairs. live on the camera. Chris, what was happening? It was the end of the day on a Friday, I think.
It was not a staff potential session, Craig. It was not.
No, it
Nor
wasn't. It
was it
wasn't
a
one that you'd want to repeat.
nor was it a behavior session, nor was it a mentoring session, nor was it a training session. It was a, hey, we're almost done with the day session.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's what
Isn't
it
that
was.
beautiful? Hey, we're done. Hey,
I would
we
say
had
it
a
was
great
kind of
week.
one of those
Let's
potential
celebrate.
sessions. Probably having
Let's
some
celebrate.
stories and just that wind down moment, right?
That's why not.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we all need it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the camaraderie you want in the shop. You want them to feel they're on the same team, right? Because they are. So now the fifth one here is working on it Tuesday. What do you do when you work on the business? Well, that's great. We've got a sheet of paper that we train people how to list things down they're going to work on every Tuesday, right? And so they have a checklist that they go through. That's different for every shop owner, isn't it? One guy said, I'm just going to start working on the accounting. I'm going to start working on the advertising. I'm going to start working on this and that and the other. Nope, stop, time out. You're just trading jobs. That's not right. You can hire somebody to do all that. Go in there and plan to work on Tuesday to replace yourself. Every Tuesday you're working, how can I replace myself in this? How can I replace myself in this? And you want to take one leg, one arm, one toe out of everything you're doing over time. And that's like working on it Tuesday. You go there to replace yourself. Okay.
I like that.
Now, the sixth one, the how-to manual, is the one where you create all these SOPs, these systems, you strategically think through it. And this is what houses, like this binder, houses your how-to manual, right? So that requires everybody to help you build those SOPs. You don't build them alone. You don't sit around on Tuesday and write them. You don't create them. You teach your staff how to create the SOPs. So they'll write them without you. Then they take ownership. So don't think you're going to sit in your office on that, working on it Tuesday, and write these SOPs. You may get them started, but without your people's input, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah. With
Absolutely
your vision
wasting your time.
applied, this is happening though. A lot of owners would put something to a team and the team is like, we don't really want to do that. We're going to do it this way type of thing. And now you have Discord and that's not happening. So what kind of guidelines would you give a shop that's like, take a shop, a good example we use here all the time, going from paper inspections to digital inspections. Team says, I can do it faster this way, guys. This is the process we want to do. The team didn't implement what you want to do is the digital inspections. Would that happen?
I would have, first of all, you want individual meetings with each employee before you make that change. And you want buy-in from Craig, Chris, David, Joe. You get individual buy-in and then you get them together. And now then they're all ready to take charge. Individually, that's a monumental change.
Sure is.
And these technicians probably haven't had an iPad out in the shop. They're used to doing this paper inspection. They're doing all this stuff. So individually do it. And if it takes you 2 months to get everybody on board, now when you pull out the DVI process or you start the process,
they're refining.
Now it's easier to implement.
Absolutely.
Hey, we ran 15 years, Chris, without this. What if it takes 2 months to get buy-in before you implement a huge change like that?
So leadership is about pushing and pulling, right? And Gary, I love these 6, right? They all happen organically at some point in time. I don't know that I follow them, like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 40 minutes. I've obviously all these happen. I'd say with the how-to, I absolutely believe that a shop owner sometimes has to sit down and create some of those SOPs. And what he has to do is she has to establish that this is the way we're going to do business. And I would say also with any type of change, a lot of time the leader has to be the one, not all the time. And certainly as you expand and you create more shops, you find the champions, the people that are like you to say, hey, we're going to change this and it's going to happen. So we're not going to decide whether or not there's going to be a buy-in or not. It's going to be, we're going to do this. So the buy-in is that I pay you money for a job. And I know this sounds bad, but sometimes I have to tell people like, I pay you money for a job. So therefore, if this is now part of the job, it's requiring you to do the job, right? Because I'm pretty sure you don't come in here for free, and you don't. So, but a lot of times is, once again, if in an owner, if we can have that influence or find that champion in our organization, whether it's going and creating the first couple SOPs and then bringing them to the team and saying, hey, this is the way we're going to do business now. What do you think about this? And I guarantee what's going to happen is they're going to, it looks great. They're going to throw it on their toolbox, but it's up to you as the leader or the owner or the manager to pick it back up and say, well, hold on. You say it's great. I just watched you do an oil change and you skip 7 and 8 steps. And then they go, well, hold on, let me look at it. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, 7 and 8 needs to be reversed. So, you've got to go and then say, and correct it. Now, we know this, Craig, one of the book that we talk about all the time is Change or Die, right? Great book if you want a book on change, right? The 3 things: relate, repeat, and reframe, right? So over time, it takes 60 something days to create a habit. We know this, and a habit is not sequential, right? When you're an auto repair shop and you're open 5 days a week. So unfortunately, your weekend kind of devastates everything you do and you got to reset. So I would say in a shop, it might take you 3 months before it changes. It might take 90 days. It might take 4 months, because once again, every time we hit the weekend, we're resetting that whole change that we're trying to dictate. Once you get it set and once everybody's behavior is changed, things become exponentially that much easier.
Yes.
And we talk about this, Craig, you have the CBAM model, right?
Yeah,
the dip,
concerns-based
right?
adoption model.
The dip that says, hey, we're all happy about adopting this new thing. And then immediately what happens is you hit this dip, because then it forces change, and change forces your conscious mind to awaken. And it's because, you're subconsciously competent. Well, now you're not subconsciously competent anymore. You're now consciously incompetent, right? Which then forces you to then work this way back up to this model again. So I love everything Gary's saying. I as an owner, a lot of times I just know that, man, it is, we can't do the swoop and poop. We got to get in there and get dirty sometimes in the implementation of the things that we want done, right? We have to.
Totally agree, Chris. My whole point of training these sessions is to get the right frame of mind for the owner who wants to be free.
Absolutely.
And to have liberty in the business. Okay. And that's the key. So I always thought of it like this. You got like a 3-layer cake. All right. It's our birthday and we get to have our own cake, right? So my wife said, make me a 3-layer cake or a 3-story building. The first level, the top level, is the leadership. Okay. And that is systemic. Yes, leadership is a system if you do it. These 6 processes, these sessions, will create leadership systemically. Now, second one is management. Layer 2, or second story, is management. Keep in mind, you're managing processes, not people. Craig, you're not manageable. I guarantee you, Chris can't manage you 1 iota.
It's tough.
I'm not manageable. No one is manageable. If you're trying to manage people, you're making a huge mistake. What you do is you manage processes, and the people run the processes. Let the process do the job. Okay. Bottom level, store level number 1, or layer number 1 on the bottom, is your daily ops. That's your daily operation. When you put the key in the morning, open the store, you get the key at night and close it. Everything that happens in there is daily operations. And all of these sessions, how-to manual, the SOPs, it may take you 3 years to get this puppy running without you. It could take that long.
Yeah, but you'll
Depends
have
on where you're starting.
Yeah,
so where you're starting. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in all
instant...
this, in measuring these as well, right? We didn't get to touch on KPIs, but we're probably going to have to do it again, because I think we're running on time. But we certainly need to talk about KPIs and measuring, right, the processes, right? And I love this, but right, one of the ways manage remotely is certainly by numbers and allowing people to understand that these benchmarks are very important. Not just the way to do it, but then what is expected? What is the expected result, right? And how can we improve that result?
Absolutely.
And Chris, you're absolutely right, because that's what the WIT is about. That's the day you do it. Okay.
There it is. Hey, so we do have a lot more to discuss here. There's even some questions in chat that we'll want to talk about. Here's the good news. You can reach out to Gary. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Chris. And I put another resource in chat for the Auto Shop Leadership Checkup. Fill out those things, and I think that you will see some interesting results. Gary's got some free resources in his starter kit as well that'll reinforce things from this conversation. Chris, I'm going to give you a second here to round out any last comments, and then we'll let you close us out, Gary.
Okay.
I would say if you want to become what I would believe just the definition of an owner, whether you're in shop or you're out of shop, right? Everything Gary talked about and the behavior, the process, the procedures, the KPIs, right? It's a choice, right? Do you want to be the person that's fighting the fires, or do you want to be strategic person? You know, the tactical person or strategic person. There's a lot of great personality books on there that tell you, you know, whether you're the implementer or whether you're the visionary, right? And I think both are acceptable. Both are great positions to be. I just say, you know, there's some reflection that you need to do. You know, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? I still don't know what I want to be, Craig, but I appreciate the time that we've got to spend together for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you. Gary?
You remember two numbers, 6 and 80.
Yes.
That's it. That's my closing statement. 6 and 80. Do those, understand that, and you can have freedom and you can have liberty.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Gary. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Great engagement in here. I appreciated the dialogue. We'll get this recording up as soon as possible. It could take a couple days, but we will get that and email it to you as well when it is posted. Thank you so much, everyone. Gary, Chris, have a wonderful rest of your day, and everyone enjoy
Thank you all.
your weekend. See you now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.